1, 2, 1, 2.
Perfect. Okay.
So we'll start the Irish American question again then.
Start the
Alright,
Irish
let's put
American
that to the
question,
side
yeah.
then. Yeah.
So, Rachel has joined us.
Can you see Rachel on the camera?
You can come in.
No, honestly, it's fine.
Are you happy to be off camera?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Would that be weird on the video? As ghosts talking over like?
It's a ghost.
This is a very informal thing. It's all good. It's all good. I do whenever I do them. I did the one we were out in the patio the other week there with a comedian, Mickey Bartlett, and our friends were all sitting in the garden with chairs, drinking beer and watching, but they were all afraid to talk. And Mickey was making jokes, and I said, "Why are you not laughing? We don't want to ruin your recording." No, that's not like that. But like there's Jeannie bringing in the cake and stuff. I'm not cutting that out. That's staying in. You know what I mean? You know, it's very informal in that way. So, can I direct this question to you, Rachel?
No, we'll have an open thing because you did make some really good points there that I agree
Yeah.
with anyway.
Okay.
Right,
So, with regards to Irish America and the potential rise or the potentiality of Sinn Fein winning and trying to introduce what you call democratic socialist policies,
Yeah.
FDR, Scandi socialism.
Yeah.
You know, how do we think that'll go down?
We haven't had any kind of problems with it so far. As I said earlier, like, if you look at the Irish American press, the Irish Central and everything, like they're excited about Sinn Féin winning the election, but overwhelmingly they were kind of disgusted again at the Conservative Party trying to exclude us from government. So I don't think it's going to like harm us in Irish America whatsoever, because the people that support us in Irish America, they support us because they want Irish unity. It's not you know, it's not necessarily because we have a bigger vision for a socialist republic or anything.
There's
you know?
one thing America is very great. Everyone is really, but they're brilliant at being quite hypocritical when it comes to looking, you know, who their chosen allies are.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, well, Irish Americans, they love our revolutionary history.
Yeah.
Do you know, like the amount of fundraising that went on in the United States, like they are our allies, and like it's like our influence and being able to actually get Irish American politicians to raise our concerns at the highest level, to challenge the Brits. Like, you know, I don't think that can be underplayed.
No.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
And I don't think that they have any difficulty at all with our principles and with our program. I think they
So just on that, that's what I'm kind of trying to get at. So obviously America doesn't have a left wing in its mainstream body politic, but they still manage to make that mental jump to support socialist Sinn Féin in Ireland.
Yeah.
And there's no problem for that. There's no problem in that.
I think as well, like, you know, obviously the Irish Americans that were so heavily involved in fundraising for us. And
Does anybody want a drink?
No, I'm okay yet.
I'm okay, thanks, Jamie.
Dear Jenny.
Yeah, no, I think sorry, I just totally skipped my mind there.
It's just about the disconnect between the American...
Oh yes, the left. So they're not an organised left, but no. But the point I was going to make, was that Irish Americans that were so heavily involved in supporting us and pushing a peace process, and the American intervention in our peace process, you know, like again, can't be understated. And I think like you see a lot of those people who were, you know, real diehard supporters of ours and wanting to see a peace process. Like after Good Friday Agreement, after the establishment of the executive, and then even like when the executive couldn't be pulled back together, you know, you could see Irish Americans kind of going, you know, what's the problem here? I don't understand. I thought the conflict was over. So I actually think this is really exciting for Irish Americans who do want to see Irish unity, who are quite progressive in that way. You know, they do want to see a fair United Ireland. Like, and you know, I think sometimes they can get a bad cred. I know with the accent, probably I'm a little bit biased, but you know, like I did grow up there. I went to, like, I did Irish dancing in the AOH and learned Irish, and you know, like I think that they do get a bad cred here, and I can understand why they are, I suppose, you know, like at the upper echelons, they can be very conservative, but like at the lower level, like working class Irish people who were forced to immigrate from Ireland over to America, they were set up in houses, they were set up in jobs, they were helped through the immigration process. So again, like I do think Irish America has always extended its solidarity to our struggle here.
Of course. I don't think that's deniable. It's just that disconnect between the actual political policies of Sinn Fein and the Democrats of the
Well, I
Republicans.
suppose it's a different
Yeah.
electorate. It's a
Yeah.
very, very different electorate.
Yeah.
You know,
See, as
Yeah.
American, though, like Irish American, how does it play out? Like our support for Cuba and Palestine, is that noticed in the Irish American kind of community, and how's it kind of received? Because
yeah, I don't think that they like again. So like, you know, when we're in America, we're talking about Irish unity.
Yeah.
Like we're there to, you know, and the point I was about to make there is just like it's a very different electorate. You know, like
understand,
Americans are very, very used to conservative politics.
Mm.
They're very, very used to having their rights and their services stripped away from them, and like not hearing anyone kind of raise their voice or attention to all of this.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's just like the Democratic Party in America. Yeah, like we definitely should criticize them for sure, but you know, like when you compare it to like the openly racist and the openly conservative, like evangelical republicanism in American politics, like
Yeah.
you know, unfortunately, it's the lesser of two evils for a lot of people.
It's terrible that politics comes down to that in any country. The voting for the lesser of two evils is such a disgusting choice to offer your electorate.
Yeah.
It's terrible that that's the best you've got is
Yeah.
this lunatic or that
And
fucking lunatic.
and Sinn Féin destroyed that in the south. In
Yeah.
February, you know,
Yeah.
it used to be Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil slightly,
Yeah, completely.
slightly not quite as evil as Fine Gael.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but like we've given, I said earlier, we've given people hope and we've broken that kind of.
But going back to the Cuba, the Palestine, you know, our support for that, like, you know, no, Irish America wants to see a sovereign Irish government, you know, take its place in among the nations of the world. And,
Yeah.
you know, if they choose to extend their international solidarity to those movements, well, that's actually none of their business, really, do you know? So
Yeah.
Okay.
it's just a separate issue. Like,
Well, it's a statistic that I was sorry, I don't mean it to. A statistic that I always fascinates me is something like 60% of Republican the electorate in America want a Medicare for all, and something like 75-80% of Democrats
Yeah.
electorate want a Medicare for all. But they will not get it. Like this COVID crisis has proven that even in the mouth of a global pandemic, which is killing God knows how many by the time it's all done, they still won't give them Medicare for all. So the electorate is actually more to the left than the leadership.
yeah.
Across the board, even in the Republican Party. But
Even in the south, in the election, European and local elections in the south last May, Sinn Féin we were hammered. Like,
Yeah.
but in the exit polls, they were asking all these questions about like, do you want universal free healthcare? Do you want to tax corporations more? And like 70 or 80% of voters were saying yes, we want those things. But like also 70 or 80% of those voters voted for right wing parties.
Well,
you know
that-
what I mean?
well, actually,
So
that's
America's not unique in that.
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Of course it's not. No, that actually leads me to one of my questions. Why has Ireland voted the way it has for 100 years?
Well, it's the same why, like I say, you know, American voters are so used to like this kind of lowest common denominator type politics.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's because, yeah, people absolutely aspirationally want these things. They want
Yeah.
them. But what they also want is like their house price to be, you know, it's about a
Yeah,
value system.
yeah.
You know, they want their house price to
Well,
increase. So it's a value system.
So on that, a distinction maybe I would make between America and Ireland is we have someone in Ireland like James Connolly, who everybody is happy to raise the ghost of,
Yeah.
but forget what he actually stood for. So we have someone like that, and America has plenty of people like that, but they're not celebrated so much like James Connolly is, if you know what I mean. So the thing that I don't understand about the Irish electoral choice for 100 years. Now, I know about the mechanics of the church coming in and not having any money and all this sort of stuff whenever the Republic was first formed, but the electorate still has this revolutionary past going back hundreds of years, right back to the United Irishmen and beyond. But we still voted, or the Southern electorate still voted the centre right at best.
Yeah.
For 100 years, whereas I mean to say the distinction, America doesn't have that icon of the left that Ireland has. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I have a kind of comment to make about the electorate in the South. I think, like, okay, so you think about the foundation of the state and partition, and like two big parties that basically, yeah, they were at war, but then they both basically advocated partition going forward for 100 years, right?
Yeah.
You didn't really have like a credible alternative at that stage, you know, like, and I think that I suppose the pride in the experience of having a revolution, the pride in the experience of actually that revolution, you know, whatever, you can argue that it wasn't successful, but there was a sovereign state established, you know, like that's, you know, it's a big deal. And
Big deal.
I'd say, you know, like the psyche of the Irish people that, you know, we have a nation to be proud of. We're going to make it the best that we can. You know, like, we're still in our infancy, but, you know, let's give it a chance here. We're going to do it ourselves. So I think there's like a little element of that. And then, as you say rightly, the influence then of the Catholic Church. And I think that the parties, like those parties that you mentioned, like, they were very happy to leave our social services to the church.
Yeah.
They were very happy to do that. So again, like, Irish people are used to not having public services. They're used to these things being provided through either charity or privately. So, you know, like, not having a real credible lived alternative. They don't, you know, we've never seen any differently.
So if the future the future what's the word I'm looking for, the narrative has to be to tell the people of Ireland that all these things are possible, and we're not going to bankrupt ourselves in the process of trying to achieve them.
Yeah.
But Ruairi made the good point. Like, you know, what we're talking about in our general election, in our manifesto, like, you know, the media would make it seem like it's this massive, you know, great revolutionary document. As Ruairi says, it's basic stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's the fundamentals. Like,
Yeah.
you're not asking for anything mad or anything that's going to bankrupt the state. Like, you know, everything we did, you know, whether you like it or not, like, I don't particularly, but, you know, everything we did was costed within the confines of the, you know, those financial restrictions that you're talking about at the European level. Like, these things aren't, you know, mad.
Yeah.
They're very, very basic. And
Yeah.
I think that was the strength of it was, you know, all this is done, like the universal healthcare.
Yeah.
Like, this is done in other countries.
Completely,
Very
yeah.
For cheaper as
for
well.
cheaper than and we're so
yeah.
used to the black hole of the HSE in the south, and people don't understand why we're languishing on trolleys or on waiting lists. Like, you know, after COVID, there's gonna be 1 million people on waiting lists in the
I
south.
don't
Like,
know
how
what-
is this
I don't
not?
know. The healthcare systems, I mean, even in the NHS as well, which is on its knees also, but the next, I don't know how many years, it's going to get worse and worse, because how many people's operations have been delayed, and you know, all those things are going to hit hard. All of a sudden, those waiting lists are going to be backed up overnight.
Yeah.
You know, back on and backed up.
That's it.
You
Yeah.
know, it's absolutely fucking tragic.
Yeah, and it's not to mention that the health issues that arise from, like, the decades of austerity.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, the health issues that arise from that, you know, like the absolute epidemic of mental health and suicide in the south, and, like, the lack of mental health services in the south. Like, you know, to me, I think a lot of the times it's a real token, it's a real kind of token gesture to throw funding into mental health when you're not dealing with the structural issues that actually cause
You don't
people.
have the mental health problem to begin with if other things are dealt with before.
Exactly, and like the amount of people that
It's
wouldn't.
such a simple equation, the calculation. It's 1 on 1 equals 2,
Yeah.
but we can't seem to do it at governmental level in any country. You know what I mean? So, just on that, I want to ask you one more question about, and then I've got 2 more things I want to ask you about the election. Both of you, if you don't mind. First of all, when is the next government likely to form? Either, right? Is that maybe through another election, or through are these 2 clown parties going to manage to get it over the line? When is it likely to form? And if there was another general election, would Sinn Fein win that?
Yeah. Okay, the first question, like, nobody, like, your guess is as good as mine in terms of if a government's going to be formed or not. I mean, I know the Irish Times are reporting this morning that the Green Party are on the verge of a deal with Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, but they have to pass it by their membership, and it kind of shows you the absolute inherent partitionism in the southern kind of media, that they're debating whether or not the Green Party membership are going to accept the deal with the Conservative parties. But what they're not taking into account is the Green Party membership in the North, which also have a vote. And, like, the Green Party membership in the North
sister parties?
No, they're the same party. Like, I mean, it's an All-Ireland party now, and they've got a vote in it as well, and they're significantly more left-wing than the party in the South.
Yeah.
So, like, there's no way the people in the North in that party are going to vote for government with the 2 Tory parties in the South. So, but it could still happen. So there's a number of scenarios that can happen. That could happen. Another general election could happen, or there's still the possibility of Sinn Féin leading a left-wing government, a left minority government.
That is still possible, is it? Is that
technically it's still
numerically possible?
It's technically it is still possible. Now there was only one other minority government, and it was a Fianna Fáil one in 1932, wasn't it? Wasn't that the first Fianna Fáil government? I think was a minority government, or maybe their second one, but. that would certainly be my preference, and it's certainly Mary Lou's preference that we lead a
So
left government.
how would that look?
So the way it would be a minority government, but and I know Rachel's looking to come in. And
No, but equally, like Fianna Fáil could come back
Fianna
to
Fáil
us.
could also
Come back to Sinn Fein. Like, you know, they may, you know, go to the park and say, you know, we can't
Really?
form a government, we need another general election, and the president could say no, go back and try again, and Fianna Fáil may come back to us. Like, my view, I mean, obviously it's not the party's view, like, we want to be in government, but like, I don't see why we would save Fianna Fáil.
Yeah,
Do you know?
No, absolutely.
And
not.
I
Where are
think
they going?
where are they going? I suppose it's like the SDLP in the north. Do you know, like they've kind of had their heyday and it's done now. Like you know, they don't represent. They're the weather vane party, as I call them. You know, like they'll go whatever way the wind's blowing. But you know, so they stand for nothing.
I can't. I can't. The SDLP are a conservative party. Like, people in the north underestimate how conservative the SDLP are. I mean, like you even look at the issue of abortion alone, how horrendous they are, and that how dodgy they've been on like equal marriage, and like Alban McGuinness consistently voting against it. But like, not only that, seeing the general election there, like Sinn Féin put forward a social democratic manifesto, and the so-called Social Democratic and Labour Party lined up with the Conservative establishment to try and stop it. Like Claire Hanna, for God's sake. Like, she was canvassing for Fine Gael. Like, Fine Gael are the Tory
I thought
party,
she
you know?
was going to leave the SDLP before she'd do that.
Yeah,
Because that was the...
They have no principles, like, you know. Like, they just don't, they are anti-Sinn Féin and like that. But
Are they anti-Sinn Féin first?
They are now, because like,
I think so.
since John Hume had his own vision for the party for Ireland, and in fairness to him, he kind of built it, and I've a lot of regard for John Hume. But like the current kind of crop of the SLP, they don't stand for anything other than just being anti-Sinn Féin. They've no. It's like Fianna Fáil as well. Like where's your vision? What is the point of your party? Like, we know what the DUP for. Yeah. We know what Fine Gael are for. Fine Gael are for privatising everything in society and making you pay for everything. Sinn Féin, we're for United Ireland and a socialist republic. But Fianna Fáil, SLP. Well, just what's the point? Just get off the pitch, lads. Go in. Do you know what I mean? Just start your distraction now.
Yeah, but in terms of actually, like, will a government be formed? Yeah. Likely. I think likely. Yeah. Because and I think it'll be an establishment government, because they're terrified of what the alternative could be.
And what is, well, of course they are, but what is, what would the reaction be on the ground then?
Anger,
I think people would be very angry. Like, already, like, see, to be honest, like, COVID saved Fine Gael.
Completely.
Absolutely. Like, it saves them. And the fact that they bent over backwards, like you say, to bring the two-tier health system into a kind of a more public service. The reason they did that is because they have decimated our health system. Like, decimated it. It's not fit for purpose whatsoever. Yeah. And to kind of cover their ass, that was their, you know, they've thrown everything.
Would have been tens of thousands dead if it was left the way it was. If the HSE was left the way Fine Gael had it, like, you'll be talking an absolute humanitarian catastrophe.
And even in terms of the payments that were given, you know, like, and you know, you remember in the early stages, the payment was only going to be about €250. It was increased to 350. But again, that was to service their base. You know,
disgusting comment a few weeks ago. I don't know which particular politician it was. It was
Varadkar.
People were saying people making more money now.
It was Varadkar. It was Varadkar. Imagine the head of a government saying such a petty thing.
That's disgusting. You know? Are you trying to live on it?
Yeah, that's it. Or any of those voters.
So, just on that, one of my things.
But sorry, I'll see kind of coming on to Rachel's point as well. Like, if there is a conservative government kind of cobbled together in the south, like, the reaction is going to be anger, because like the COVID crisis has kind of masked it a bit. It stopped the Sinn Féin rallies. It stopped kind of protests in the south.
Is that energy going to be able to be tapped into again, do you think?
I think so. Like, I know it's anecdotal, but we're moving to Dublin, and we were even trying to get a house on. It's just impossible. The rent is still 1,600-1,700 quid. So you're going to have a situation where you've got 20-30% unemployment, rents that are absolutely ridiculous for even people on a good wage, all the employment in Dublin. So like, the anger's still going to be there. People are still pissed off about the same things. So and even if you look at the polls, like, we've gone up slightly in the polls by 2 or 3%. I think we'll increase our number of TDs massively. Fine Gael will get a massive boost, but it'll come at the expense of Fianna Fáil. The left-wing vote in Ireland's holding. We're in the overall left-wing vote between us, the Trotskyist parties, the
so you don't
Social
think it was
Democrats.
a wobble? You don't think that was just a...
45% is left, 45% is right-wing, and I think that's kind of the new era of Irish politics. The left-right divide's finally opened. Hopefully Fianna Fáil just go and die out, like, you know, and they've no place. in fairness to Fine Gael, you had to respect them where they're open about who they are. They're
Yeah.
hard right
Do what they
Tories.
say on the tin.
You know,
Yeah.
they're going to privatise your granny.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're going to put
Yeah.
a toll booth at your granny's front door to charge you to fucking go and see her.
I do have that begrudging respect about the right wing everywhere. Everywhere, every
They
country.
have. We say that all
Yeah,
the time. Like, at least they have
I-
conviction and the
they-
confidence
they
of their
say-
conviction.
It's like I remember saying this. I have a great comrade, Pete Graham, up in Lisbon. He's a trade unionist as well, and he comes down and visits me, and we just sit and rant at each other for about 4 hours and drink 6 cups of coffee. And one of the things I says to him, it was just the other week when the Dominic Cummings thing happened in London. Remember that? And the way they stuck behind him was
Fair play to them.
I did. Now they're all vile bastards, and I hope they all fucking disappear and never be seen again.
The Brits voted for him.
But unbelievable the way that Michael Gove went on the TV and made a complete arsehole out of himself before he would criticise that man for what was an obvious, failing. And but the way they did it across the board, no one would criticise him. Maybe because they're a bit afraid of him, but either way, it was unbelievable. And again, it's that begrudging respect.
Just the courage and conviction. Myself and Rachel were actually talking about that this week as well. Just like the contrast between with the exception of us, in fairness, we kind of are honest about who we are. We stand by our kind of principles. But like the rest of the left in Europe and the Western world, they're just so apologetic about their socialist history and everything. Whereas the far right come along, the populist right, and they are proud of who they are. They mean what they say what they mean. They have the courage of their convictions. Like we were watching Steve Bannon the other night. He was doing a lecture in Oxford University, and
he's a monster.
He's an evil, he's a really creepy, horrible fucking man. But he, the way he delivered that speech, it wasn't anything, it wasn't rocket science, but the way he delivered it resonated.
Why
we weren't watching Steve Bannon because we like Steve Bannon at the very. We were just trying to challenge ourselves, see why people are voting for these people. But the way he kind of delivered his message was simple, kind of appealed to just working people. Didn't triangulate between issues, picked a side. And that's what the kind of left need to do as well. They just pick a side.
But that gets back to your point about having the political ideology and the education behind. That's exactly the point. I was listening to who the fuck? Joe Rogan. I like Joe Rogan. I know I don't agree with everything he's in, all the rest of it. I'm alright with Joe Rogan. He's grand. He's just a normal guy. He goes a bit this way, he goes a bit that way. That's your average 5'8", right? But he had Bill Burr on. And the latest thing, and Bill Burr said, it made me laugh. And he says, he was referencing something else, but it was basically, he was saying, public discourse these days is basically like walking in the last scene of Jaws and seeing them kill the shark and going, why are they killing the shark? Without knowing why they want to kill the shark. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, that's it. Yeah. Bannon, straight to the point.
Yeah.
Doesn't triangulate, doesn't give you the history, doesn't give you the whys, the whats, and the where. Just, this is wrong, bad, vote for him.
Yeah. I think as well, it's probably just the lack of organising of late, of the left in general.
Yes.
It's that lack of actual
Plus,
embeddedness.
It's changed a lot. Sorry, I don't mean. It's also changed a lot with the internet.
Well, that was the point I was going to make is, say if you don't have physical presence in a community, you don't actually know what's going on. And you can't trust Twitter and you can't trust the Facebooks because it's like you're saying, it's that last scene. And that isn't public. That's not debate. That's not discourse.
Yeah.
Nobody learns. Nobody's ever changed their mind by reading a tweet or a Facebook post. Yeah. But more than that is the left and I'm left, absolutely. But the arguments can be just utterly fucking insufferable. Yeah. I find them boring. I find them for God's sake, not this again. Even just the nature of how we present our arguments, it is very much softly and or if it is real, hardcore, then it's this cancel culture bullshit. I feel like the way that we put our arguments across, they're not simple. They're overly academic for the most part. It's who's the smartest boy in the room. And ordinary working class people don't have the time to be following up on all this
which
stuff.
is by design.
Yeah, it is absolutely by design. And it's they're not interested in your vanity. You know, like what they need to, like you're talking about educating. I don't even like that word.
Yeah.
I don't like about talking about going into working class areas and educating people. We need to be educated by working class people. We need to know what their lived experience is and then adapt our policies to that. Do you know what I mean?
And I made that point in my Phoblacht article as well, that when we are kind of developing a new kind of, or a more modern kind of Republican ideology, we do it in like speaking to our members and getting their experience and updating the kind of our ideology based on working class experience, like you said, not going in and lecturing because I read a book in university, like,
well, that's
you know,
it, like the over the correctness of the left. I don't have time for it myself.
It does very much depend on who you're talking to. If you're writing an article on Phoblacht, or you're writing an article in Jacobin, or so, it's okay to use sort of academic language and these sorts of things, and I completely agree both your points, because if you know you're talking to basically an educated sort of, you have an educated audience. But if I'm talking to my mates down the pub, or my next door neighbours, who, not next door neighbours exactly, but up the street, who literally don't know the difference between a socialist and a capitalist. My own family members, I have a sister who I can say because she'll not watch this, doesn't know the difference. I had to explain to her. I was sitting here the other day and I was talking to her about the stock market. Didn't understand that people got dividend from a stock. Didn't get it. Didn't. I just go, what? She sent me a message this morning. What was that thing you said? Because she's trying to tell her husband. Do you know what I mean?
And there is a kind of balance to be struck, because like that comes kind of from two or three things. Like there's a kind of depoliticization of society that comes with neoliberalism, kind of making politics out to be this specialist professional vocation. But I'd say part of the reason that of people not understanding stock markets or caring about it, or caring about the housing market or anything and its effect on working people, is like the demise of trade unions. Because unions, when they used to be kind of militant and organising in the working class, they did political education. They taught people how capitalism worked. They taught people how finance capital worked. And workers understood it. Do you know what I mean? Like this stuff isn't
so they understood
science.
Their own value.
They understood it. Yeah, they understood the value of the wealth that they were creating through their labour, and how it was being expropriated by their bosses and being sold on the stock market. And
but this is the thing that I found, that what we've done, I'm not going to say the left, I'm saying the working class, by not knowing how the mechanics of our society operate, we might say we're not moving, but the ground is moving under us, so therefore we're moving. Do you know what I mean? It's taking us with it, and it's moving ever rightwards, and it's been doing that.
And the point you make about it being by design, like, even you talked about earlier the media and like the narrative in the media, and there is no alternative. And I think, you know, without the organic organising in working class communities, unfortunately you don't have the time to develop yourself. Like loads of people are commuting hours a week, you know, 20 hours a week probably to get to a shitty job that they get paid, you know, minimum wage maybe for, or you know, slightly above it. They're paying astronomical rents, like the pressures that people are under, and then to try to like maintain family relationships, friends, relationships with friends, and develop yourself in your own hobbies and your interests. Where do you have the time?
Exactly.
You know, to try and digest this kind of stuff.
And like, I remember, like, I was thinking about this last night. See, when in advance of the general election in February, like a point that kind of me and Rachel kind of saw that something was changing in Ireland. We were both involved in the Dublin Midwest by-election last November, and Sinn Fein won that. Like, it was expected to be a Fine Gael hands down seat. Sinn Fein won it.
I watched the results. It was
incredible. Like,
it was just unbelievable. It was like winning the FA Cup or something. It was like, holy fuck.
Like, see, like some of the results are like, I mean, like Owen O'Brien was kind of the director of elections. He ran a tight ship. Like, he did an amazing job. Like, but like, see that some of the tallies are coming in. Like Sinn Fein were getting, in working class communities, 97% first preference. But not only that, there was the two things I kind of noticed about that, was that just the absolute solid vote we got from the working class. But secondly, see, when we were trying to get activists involved in canvass and everything, like we were kind of phone banking all our members in Dublin. We phoned like every member, a Sinn Fein member in Dublin, to try and get them mobilised and active in the by-election campaign. And like, there were so many that couldn't get involved because they're all working second jobs to pay a landlord to the rent. And like, because we were asking, like, real committed Republicans, they were like, no, I just can't, I've no time, I'm fucking working all week and then working the weekend because my landlord's looking £1,700 a week or a month. So like,
disgusting.
I see at that point last November, I was like, something's fucking happening on the ground. Like, I wasn't sure if it was going to be a good thing or a bad thing for like the left. I did have the worry that like that anger was going to shift everywhere to the far right maybe, but I knew that before Christmas that something massive was happening in the south when Sinn Fein members didn't have time to canvass because their landlord is looking £1,700 a week off them when they're having to look after their parents because there's no respite care for carers, you know.
I follow American politics as closely as is possible, and you know I try to pick my sources as close as carefully as possible. But one of the people that I'm a huge fan of, and again he's unapologetically left, is Jimmy Dore. And he's just, I don't know if you know him, but he's this comedian who's basically come along in the wake of what do you call that guy that used to do one of those talk shows, and everyone started to get their news from him. Jon Stewart.
Yes,
yes. So he come along sort of in the wake of him. He says himself that he noticed that he was looking at the news and then he was comparing what was going on, and it was like the two of them that aren't matching up at all. So he started to do this political show. Now it's become bloody massive actually. But one of the things, he's just almost exactly the point that you just made. But it was back when Bush was canvassing for his second term, or going out for the second term, and somebody stood up at one of them town hall things, and it was a lady, and she asked the question, and he says, no, what's your name or whatever. He said, do you work, are you employed? She says, how old are you? And she goes, yes, I'm 63 and I've got 62 and I've got 3 jobs. Okay. And he goes, and this is the point, he goes, isn't that wonderful? Isn't that uniquely American? Brilliant. Round of applause. And everybody gives her a round of applause. And Jimmy Dore points out, and he then goes, this is a fucking travesty.
Yeah. That
this woman, is basically working 3 jobs to pay her rent.
Yeah.
Just on their point.
That's it. Yeah, I know.
And it's just it's just to finish my point. That's one of the reasons I follow American politics quite closely, is because for me it's like looking into a crystal ball. Because that's where we're headed. Do
you follow Irish politics much?
As much as I can.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I've got even the stuff in the north. I've got. I've abandoned British politics altogether after the election. I just can't do it anymore.
I think that's significant as well. Like, there's so many people here just like, we're done with the Brits. Like, they voted for a right-wing government that nobody in the north had a say in, and they're going to subject us to another 5 years of friggin' like harsh austerity.
The idea of living in a world where someone like Boris Johnson can behave the way that he does and literally claw his way to the top of the establishment makes me want to throw up in my mouth. And everybody around him is disgusted, from Priti Patel, who is a cartoon monster, to Michael Gove, to that Victorian fucking pencil, whatever his name is. Every one of them, they're cartoonish. But the English keep voting for them, and I am going to say the English, and I love the English. I love England. I've got many. I've got relatives. Half of my family all live. They all left Cork in the 50s and moved to London, and I love them all dearly. But I'm like, you're all fucking nuts.
But how nuts are people in the north for continuing to be ruled by them?
Yeah. Are we the bigger idiots?
Well, no, not that we're the bigger idiots. I mean, there's a process
there. I can sense a little change in attitude there.
There's a process, and like I'm glad that the assembly's back up and running, and like there is parity there again. But like, when is enough going to be enough? Like, even take this pensions issue, like, completely unacceptable that the Brits are now, ping-ponging back to the Assembly and saying, will you pay for it? Knowing what a divisive issue that could potentially be.
But they don't care.
No, they don't care.
I would struggle to think of the myriad of ways that they have told us to fuck off, and we don't. It's just sooner or later one of them is going to come out on whichever one it is, and some establishment lackey is going to walk out onto the steps of Downing Street in front of a podium and just say, "This is to the people of Northern Ireland. Would you fuck off? We don't want you." And the DUP are going to go, "Didn't hear it." And just as we're talking about, it's just, listen, I've got 2 final points that I want to get to. If you don't want to answer them, it's fine. the NHS, All Ireland NHS, I think that's the key to securing a united Ireland.
The number one.
Really? Okay.
The
Number
number
one.
one.
Okay.
Yeah. That's it. Like again, Sinn Féin in the south has led that fight for universal free healthcare.
I know that.
Yeah, and like the group that we're involved in as well, Trade Unionists for New and the United Ireland. Again, one of our key planks is there needs to be a national health service, because like if we don't have free healthcare, like what's the point of United Ireland? You know,
so what's the state for?
Well, the thing that I always find really interesting, like in this debate, and you know, when you ask a unionist how they, I'm not saying all of them, but just generally, you know, the things that they say that they're afraid of is losing the NHS, and they're dead right, and they're dead right. Yeah. But to me, like if they, you know, could maybe look into the future a little bit, like this is coming, like Irish unity is absolutely coming if they were smart about it, that like to, because like if they're saying, right, well, our identity has to be protected, or our way of life, or our
start
culture,
asking for that.
But that's what I'm saying, like,
exactly.
you know, demand that an NHS be enshrined in the Irish Constitution, or you know, like as part of their demands to
I did a podcast on the United Ireland a couple of months ago. It's just me talking to the camera, my thoughts.
I listened to it.
And, oh, did you?
Yeah.
Well, and you know what I'm going to say. My whenever I reference PUL in Northern Ireland, Protestant Unionist Loyalist, I call them my PUL brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
I listen to Cornell West. That's why I'm, you know, and that's who I'm, and I'm looking at them, you, and saying, you need to start seeing what way the wind is blowing. Yeah. Somebody's going to walk out the steps at Downing Street and tell you to fuck off. And you're going to be standing there going, what about my British identity? Well, you're living in a country that you don't, your worst nightmare, you're going to be in it with nothing.
Yeah.
But you could claim the high seat for United Ireland, any United Ireland, by ensuring that we have an NHS, and you can go, we give you that.
Yeah.
Whether it's right or wrong, but you can claim, you make that claim.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Everyone will love you.
Yeah,
do you know?
And that's it. Like that sort of, I've just said, unionists. I mean, or even people kind of sitting on the fence on the issue of reunification. I mean, like in a United Ireland, like particularly the unionist parties, like yous are going to be a big fish in a smaller pond.
Completely,
like yous are absolutely, like we are all irrelevant at the minute, because like we don't have any sovereignty, we don't have any say over kind of what society we have. We can talk about the identity issues and everything, but like when it comes to like actually changing society structurally, like increasing taxation, bringing things into public ownership, that's all decisions made in England. So like the North is a quarter of Ireland. Like we would have massive clout in an independent 32 county republic, and particularly our unionist brothers and sisters, they can even go and join Fine Gael and have a good right wing bloc.
Absolutely.
You know, like it's their natural home.
But or they have to ask for it.
Who is it? I can't remember. It's the compared Fianna Fáil and the DUP. The DUP's kind of, I think it's Paddy Cullivan. The DUP's just the Protestant Fianna Fáil, like religiously conservative, a little bit corrupt, you know.
Yeah.
You know, embedded in every community. But look, I mean, there is a place for like.
Well, there has to be. It's essential. It is, and you know, as I say, I don't want to live in a United Ireland where there is no place for PUL people. It's ridiculous, and it gets to the heart of the matter of anti-racism and anti-sectarianism and equality across the board. So we understand that. But my frustration with the way I put it is the paucity of leadership within unionism has literally led these people down the garden path. Unionism has, the leadership is as bad as I have ever remembered or could imagine it could be. What is facing them? They're supposed to be leaders. What is facing them is obvious, and they're not preparing their people for it in any way. I also understand why they can't talk about it. They can't go into the news and say we need to talk about our people, to our people about a United Ireland, because they'll be called they'll be called a Lundy. They'll be called a Lundy straight away. But that's where I look. That's where I would look to loyalism, to have that conversation at street level. Yeah. They need to be having that in the bars, in the clubs, in their meetings or whatever it is. They do. Guys, listen, these fuckers up on the hill aren't representing us. We know what's coming.
Yeah, I know it's going to be really, really difficult. Like, you know, I mean, there is like that just entrenched kind of like.
Yes, it's going to be difficult. Like all constitutional conversations are difficult.
Yeah.
But that's just by their nature. Like,
Yeah.
but if the only argument that you have for maintaining the links to the union is just status quo and don't upset the apple cart, well, that's not good enough.
No.
Like, this is we're talking about human societal progress here. Like, either join the conversation
Natural changes.
or don't. It's going to happen.
Society changes, things
Yeah.
change.
I tell you, I would not want to be leading the no side in a referendum on Irish unity. I would not want to be making the unionist case because, like as Rachel says, like there's literally no positive case for remaining with Britain anymore, other than don't annoy things, don't upset the apple cart, or just keep things the way they are, ticking along. But like, there's nothing positive about staying with Britain. I mean, like, even look at like us trying to tackle climate change. Like you're going to need massive state intervention to do that. Economic planning, like, we don't have a say in that. Like, that's made by English people on our behalf. So like we can't tackle climate change, for instance, when we're under British rule. I mean, and I think you made the point really well the other week as well, Andy. Like, this just comes down to, it's an issue of just self-respect, whether you're Catholic, Protestant, Muslim, Hindu. But it's just about self-respect. Like, are you willing to be bossed around by people like Michael Gove? Do you know, these people are morons, like, and like, but they rule us and they make more decisions about our lives than Conor Murphy, Michelle O'Neill, or Arlene Foster, and that's a massive injustice.
The
like,
Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, and they come out with their...
Who is he?
I can't even remember.
Who voted for him? Who voted for him in the north?
It's constant. And again, this is going to make me. It could make me sound a little bit sectarian, but I am sick of hearing these fucking English accents telling us what to do. It's getting on my nerves now.
And see, that's the thing. That's not sectarian, and like, that's like a lot of these liberals who just don't want to tackle the issue of British rule either. They're the worst people for sectarianising this issue, because that, what you said there, is not sectarian any more than it's sectarian for.
No, I don't feel it's sectarian.
I know, but
to me, it's common sense.
But Nicola Sturgeon wouldn't be accused of sectarianism for saying the English should not rule Scotland. Do you know what I mean? So it should not be sectarian to say the English should not rule part of Ireland. Like, it's just.
But why is it only sectarian when nationalists are saying things like this? Why is it only sectarian when nationalists want to talk about Irish unity?
Yeah.
Like, like, nobody seems to question.
Because that has been the narrative. That has been the prevailing narrative for go back as far as you want.
Yeah.
I was raised in this town. I was almost afraid to call myself Irish.
So was I. Yeah. And like, I'm not sure, you probably had the same thing. Rachel wouldn't, because Rachel grew up in Donegal in America. But see, growing up in the north, I did find that you had to hide your Irishness. It was something. You were proud to be Irish, but you were a wee bit ashamed of it as well, because it's not anything like your man and dad brought you up. It's just the society. When you're wearing your Armagh top, if you're going up to town, you change into normal clothes, you hide your Irishness. If you don't speak your Irish language in town centre, you don't play your Irish music anywhere near the town centre, you keep that in your ghetto. And like, I felt exactly the same. You do feel that, and I don't know, colonialism's so bloody insidious that...
It's what they do.
Do you know, like, I did grow up. I remember that. I mean, I remember... Actually, just coming to my mind, they're buying my first guitar, and I remember my mum and dad brought me up. It was for my birthday or somebody buy me a guitar, and the guitar shop was in East Belfast, I think. And like, at the time I was just into Irish music, trad and everything, like, and the guitar, the shop assistant was asking me what kind of music I was in, and I remember I was just about to say it, and like, everybody's like, do not fucking say Irish music. So you just had to say, I'm into like blues and stuff, so you even had to hide that you're into Irish music. So like, that's like at the very core of this state. And like, it's relevant as well in the racism debate as well. Like, I mean, you can't talk about racism or anything, or discrimination or anything in Ireland, without talking about the absolute foundation of this state. Like this state is nothing to be proud of.
No.
Like, the centenary's coming up, but the centenary 1920, 1922, like, that coincided with pogroms in which hundreds of people were killed. You're talking about like the McMahon family merge, where the B specials went in and massacred an entire family in reprisal for riots in West Belfast. Like this state was born out of like classical colonial racism against the native Irish.
A divide and conquer tactic that they've employed all over the world.
Yeah, that's it. So I'm going to put up the Alliance Party types, some people on the left who don't want to tackle this kind of issue as well. Like, when the centenary comes up, I hope like those liberal people are going to have an honest conversation about the foundation of this state, because I don't think you can have an honest conversation about the northern state and come out with the conclusion that it should continue to exist, because it was born in racism, it was born in bloodshed, it was born out of anti-democratic militarism. You know, it was born in defiance of 2 democratic votes for an all-Ireland 32-county republic, you know. And those conversations are coming up in the next year or two. And look, as I say, it's going to be really interesting to see how that liberal middle class in both nationalist and unionist camps are going to deal with it, because it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah,
you know? I'm
brilliant.
looking forward to it.
Rachel, do you want to have final word?
Final word?
Always.
Obviously, no, not really. I think like this type of discussion is really, really important. Like, you know, we're having a conversation about Sinn Féin's electoral success in the South and the type of principles that we stand for. But then kind of, you know, then the wider discussion about what is the ultimate aim, and obviously it is a united Ireland, but not at any cost. And you mentioned like the trade unionists for a new and united Ireland. Like, that group exists because nobody in the trade union movement at the moment has been, you know, raising their voice about this, like seeing what's coming down the track, looking at what happened with Brexit. Nobody's been kind of putting it up to the establishment. Nobody's been representing working class voices in that, and that was the purpose of that group. So it's just to kind of to bring that in there again. And yeah, like these conversations are hugely important, and you know, it's important for like just ordinary people. I said before, like, I'm sick of the overly academic type of language that's used by the left. Like, I want to hear ordinary people, their experiences, why, you know, like a societal transfer, what it means to them, this sort of transformation, why a constitutional change would it actually improve their material conditions, and is that all that actually drives them? Fair play.
And I would also say it's coming 10 years time, you know.
And we'll win it the first time.
Do you reckon within 10?
I'm going to put money on it. If I was a gambling man, I would say we are going to win the referendum in the North by about at least 60%.
Well, it needs to be
60 to 65.
Yeah,
as I say earlier, there's no positive argument to stand in the union with Britain.
Yeah.
So I think the margin's going to be higher in the North and the South. I think we're going to win it easier.
But it doesn't actually matter what the margin is. If
No,
it, you know, it's 50% plus one.
Yeah.
Like that's.
Yeah. But obviously we want to win it hands down.
Yeah.
We do want to win it hands down. And the longer we stay with establishment Tories in Dublin and in London, it just makes our argument easier to win.
The only thing is, what do we do with Portadown? Do we keep?
We hope for climate change, and we hope that it floods, because apparently I saw a map of the places that survive. Lurgan's going to be fine, so we can put a barricade the Portadown Road.
It, build that wall.
When they're coming down there in their canoes, we can.
Well, the Portadown ones.
We don't have many people from Portadown watching us, I don't think. But listen, we're going to leave it there. Are we all good then?
Yeah, thank you.
Is there anything you want to?
I don't think so.
No, all good, perfect. That was great. I really enjoyed that.
That was good crap, wasn't it?
Come in at 2 hours near enough, so we'll do this with 2. So I'm thinking that what we'll do is we'll do the first one, and then when you come in, when you come in, we'll hit with the second one. So if you send me your bona fides, or maybe you can do that, and then I'll make sure you're all linked, and send me any links and websites and all that sort of stuff, and I'll add them to the thing. So there we go. Listen, thanks everybody for coming along and doing this. It's great. Let's do it again. If there's anything else you want to talk about, or any other time, or any other people, I love this. So thanks everybody. Those of you that watch, like, share, subscribe, do all the good stuff, and that's it. If you're listening to this, there's a video version on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you add this to your podcast player. So there we go. All done.
Nice one.
Awesome. Well done, everybody. Loved it.
Nice one. That was good crack.
Great. Loved it.
It wasn't recording.